Subnautica, a game developed and published by Unknown Worlds Entertainment. The game got widely known around the internet for its replayability, creepy atmosphere, sense of exploration, and story altogether. Combine that with a wide-open underwater world where you can build incredible bases, explore stunning reefs and underwater caves, and you have a hit waiting to happen. And that is exactly what it ended up being, as it became a big hit on both YouTube and Twitch, having several major streamers and YouTubers play it for long periods of time, wanting to explore every nook and cranny the game had. For a game to work this well, a lot of aspects have to work together in great harmony, and one of those aspects is the sound design. The sound design often plays a critical role in setting the atmosphere for the player.
Yep, big open area of death.
And provide them with the right form of immersion for the location they're at in the game.
No. No. Oh, no. Oh, hell no. Oi. Oi. You let go. You let go of that shit.
And one person who was able to provide that was Simon Chilinsky, who despite the game's massive success was fired from Unknown Worlds Entertainment. This is why. Simon Chilinsky first joined Unknown Worlds Entertainment to work on their game Natural Selection 2, a science fiction first-person multiplayer PvP shooter which even managed to mix in some real-time strategy mechanics. Now that is a handful. The game was not received too well, only earning a 6 out of 10 on Metacritic, as there were plenty of things which didn't sit well with the players. Things from the lack of automation, with the whole first-person to RTS mechanics, making these mechanics overly complicated to have to work into a PvP setting. As well as the ability scaling, having the human marines be next to useless before they really gain any sort of abilities, as the aliens can simply run into them and win almost every time. But one thing that never truly got any hate was the sound design of the game, ranging from the sound of gunfire in tight metal corridors to the screams and crunches of an alien biting down on a human victim. And it's also one of the few things that didn't need a touch-up afterwards, after having the game out for almost 12 years with plenty of updates and patches, which has resulted in a very positive rating on Steam. This was seen as Simon's first success, with more to come in the future as he set his sights on the next big project. Things then went quiet for a couple of years before Unknown Worlds decided to push Subnautica out into early access in December of 2014. And it was received incredibly well across social media, as it was not only a massive survival game, which has gotten a lot of people's attention, but it was also underwater. It was beautiful, and it had the horror elements which a lot of major YouTubers were striving on in those years. And the thing that truly made the game and its monsters terrifying was not the monsters themselves, but the sound design. From the water splashing around you to all the different fish you could find. And especially this incredibly memorable moment.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
The sound design was everywhere, and it worked perfectly, having several people talking about it on social media platforms like Reddit, praising it with, "Normally I play games without the music on, as it gets too repetitive. However, Subnautica's soundtrack is just too beast." And I play games with my headphones on, and honestly, it's one of the only games where I get truly immersed. I will jump at the slightest threatening noise, and I feel a true sense of dread in certain areas. Just listen to some of these tracks from the OST of the game, and you will experience something incredible. And it just kept getting better and better as the game was being developed, before finally being fully released in January of 2018. So with such high praise and such good quality sound design, why would Simon, the main lead for this, get fired so abruptly? As only roughly 2 weeks after the game's release, it came out that he had been fired from the company. Although at first glance it doesn't seem to have been the goal for the studio, but however the power of the internet, as major outcries came out from a lot of social media platforms, primarily Twitter, where Simon had been freely sharing his opinions on several topics that he felt strongly about. Many of which people would have seen as bigoted, right-wing focused, or straight up hateful. This would be tweets such as, "We need a diversity slider in the options. It'll make the character progressively darker, more feminine, and less sexy." This was in response to a poll made by the game's director Charlie Cleveland about whether they should add a female protagonist or improve the game's core gameplay. A poll which did not sit well with a lot of people and was quickly taken down again by the director, but not before Simon did have the opportunity to post his own comment. He did, however, try to backpedal on this by commenting saying it was an ironic joke. However, that wasn't the only post he had, which would rile up the fury of the internet, as he would also post things such as, "Importing random people from third world is also importing third world tier crime rates and IQ." And these are just some examples of the things he posts on Twitter, as there is a plethora of opinions, some of which you might agree with, while others can be more out there. Many of these tweets could easily be taken as jokes, or simply an opinion he wished to share. With these continued tweets getting him on the internet's bad side, it is possible that Unknown Worlds weren't even fully aware of what was going on up until this point. So whether they felt forced to it by the pressure from the internet, or whether they disagreed with those views and didn't want him to be part of the company, is still relatively unknown. Yet, even though he ended up getting fired from Unknown Worlds, this wasn't the last you would end up hearing from Simon. Even after he was let go, he would get the occasional job on the dubious early access titles before also being frequently commissioned by the YouTuber Anfomnia, a name which I can't say I've stumbled upon before researching for this video. However, since late 2018, Anfomnia and Simon has been relatively good friends, and Anfomnia has commissioned Simon for various pieces throughout the years. Anfomnia isn't necessarily an individual who's looked down upon by the general public, but they do seem to get close to people who are. Simon being one of these individuals, and another is Dondi, who I simply could not figure out who was, but apparently was supposedly a quite toxic person who was very close with some real questionable people as well. So, who are they? Well, Anfomnia is a YouTuber who has garnered quite the library of videos, as well as over 1 million subscribers. Their primary game? Ark Survival, and you know it, Subnautica. So yes, they are still sticking close to the game, which Simon had worked on, and was fired from, which is most likely where they got to know each other. This had some people questioning what sort of person they truly were, as they seemed to get close to Simon almost a year after he was fired, and gone from Unknown Worlds. But it doesn't stop there. Anfomnia was the original person who would commission a Subnautica mod titled Return of the Ancients in 2020. A mod which would vastly change things within Subnautica and had been under development for multiple years now. There was quite a bit of hype around this mod, especially considering Anfomnia's expertise with the modding community regarding Subnautica. But what surprised people the most was that a lot of the music and sound design that was being put into the mod was made by Simon, a fired Subnautica developer now working on Subnautica mods. It did seem a bit weird, and it didn't sit well with a lot of people. And it was one of those things that ended up getting Anfomnia a lot of flack, as they were the one who originally commissioned the mod. But hey, this video isn't exactly about them, and after watching some of their videos, this whole connection to Simon doesn't seem to be a thing that show up in their videos, and you know, their videos are pretty nice. Here, have a sub. The mod, however, seems to have stagnated and was never truly released. After years of development, most people seem to have just left the project, with just about 3 people keeping the hope alive that it might become a thing eventually. Even Anfomnia's latest update regarding it on the YouTube channel seems to have been 3 years ago. So maybe we will truly never have the mod see the light of day. This then means we have a sound designer who got fired from his job, his side jobs hasn't truly paid off, so what happened to him? Well, besides him being incredibly active on Twitter, still sharing his opinions and thoughts, however, he is also making music, and quite a fair amount of it too, uploading it to his Spotify as well as his YouTube. And say what you will about his personality or opinions, but his music is an absolute collection of bangers. From his recently released song Apex, to his interestingly named Anime Titties from 2020, not to mention a vast majority of other questionable song names, as well as the Subnautica special Abandoned Ship from 2018. And all I can say is all the music that you heard in this video was made by Simon, actually. Thanks for watching.